Oh man, look at that crack. No wonder I was smelling exhaust. What's up guys, my name is Andy, and in this video I'm going to replace the stock exhaust manifold on my 66 Mustang with a new aftermarket setup for a full exhaust all the way to the back. I'm going to replace the headers, I've got some new downpipes, and I've got some new mufflers that we're going to put in and get rid of the setup that's on here. The setup that's here, I've got the stock manifold. Naturally they're restrictive and people want to upgrade those, and then the exhaust system from there to the back is kind of a hodgepodge of various pipe sizes. The mufflers are not in the right spot, and even the exhaust tips out the back don't align right, and they're all crooked and stuff. So I'm going to try to get all of that fixed. And so the first thing we want to do, let's take a look at the headers that I'm going to put on the car. So as you can see, here's kind of, I try to lay it out like you would, you know, with the motor sitting up there with the passenger and driver's side, and then the downpipe set up. And so what I've got here, those are JBA, they're 1650S. That's the model number of those headers. They're Shortys, and then this H pipe is also from JBA. So what's nice is that it's set up to bolt up right where these collectors are going to meet. And this is the 1650SH is this setup here. Got a set of Remflex exhaust manifold gaskets. I'm a big fan of these. These are really soft, and so they'll form to whatever kind of, you know, on side here. You know, these are supposed to be ground smooth, but if it's not perfectly flat or whatever, that when you tighten it down, that will crush a little bit and kind of mold to the shape of those flanges, which is perfect. And then I've got, so what I want is, if I ever have to remove this section of pipe, you know, obviously you can disconnect it from the headers, but if I had to work on the transmission or something and I want to get this out of the way, we can unbolt it there, but it's typically going to be welded to the muffler. So I've got these V-band clamps that I've got, we'll have those welded on at the end of the pipes right in front of the mufflers. And speaking of mufflers, I've got these Flowmaster 40 series, and I'm going to put those, these are all 2.5 inch setup, and then I'm going to replace the mufflers that are on the car, put this in place, and so I'll have to get a little bit of piping from this H pipe to the mufflers, but that's okay. But other than that, it's going to take care of the exhaust. And also on these Shorty headers, I went with these partly because I got, again, a lot of this stuff, I try to find a good deal on things. I had full, 4-to-1 long tube headers before, but I didn't do enough research on them and they hung too low. So this time around on this car, I want to do these Shorty headers and see how they do. Right now, the power of the car, I don't need long tube headers for the power I'm making, although I plan to change that down the road. But for now, this will be a large upgrade over the stock setup. So let's start taking a look at what we're going to take apart on the car. We're going to start by taking off the spark plug wires on both sides and get those out of the way because we don't need them. And in fact, you might find that you need to pull the spark plugs themselves, depending on how close everything is, everything's fitting. But we're gonna go after these bolts here, and then we'll go after the 2 bolts that are holding it to that downpipe piece. You may want to, depending on, it's cold here right now when I'm filming this, so I'm gonna actually warm the motor up and get these bolts just a little bit warm and then try to break them free. I don't know if I'm gonna have any luck with these. I don't know how long this manifold's been on here. This car, you know, is 55, 56 years old. You know, those things, I don't know if they've ever been removed. I don't know enough history on this car. So same thing with your car, you may find that those might be tough to get out of there. So actually, I probably need to put these back in place because I got to get the car warmed up so that I can get these bolts warmed up. And then we'll start taking those things, making those loose. All right, now we got these things are warmed up. So these should just break free pretty easily. Oh yeah, gosh, that was really easy. All right, let's just go through, and I just want to break each one of them loose, and then I can get a socket on here and take them off. Oh yeah, this is really easy. Yeah, these are newer bolts, so somebody's gone through and done something with these headers since I've gotten the car, before I got the car, so that's why these bolts are coming out so easily. All right, this is the last bolt, and I was thinking about leaving it in there just to hold it in place, hold the header in place, but we're okay. It's still bolted to the downpipe, so when we undo that, this will come apart, which is fine. All right, so let's go to the other side. Oh yeah, this is much easier to do with the motor warmed up. All right, and the last bolt. So now from here, what we're gonna wanna do is raise the car, and I'll get underneath here so I can probably get to these from up top, but the ones on the bottom, I need to get to those anyways. So, plus we need to take this lower section out Anyway, so let's go ahead and jack up the car, and then we'll see how easy it is to get to those bolts. All right, now we can get to these bolts on the downpipe here, the exhaust. Come to the other side, you can see we can pretty easily get to those. Go ahead and get these off and get these headers out of here. Look at that. That stud came right out of that broken piece. No wonder. Ah, look at that. Took the stud right out of the header. That was knocked on there good. All right. Yeah, you can see this piece broke off of here. That's why this thing was cracked and it was leaking, and I was wondering why I was smelling exhaust up front, but I'm guessing because this thing wasn't holding on well and it just busted right off there. And then of course that stud pulled out of that one there. So all right, so there's the stock manifolds. We're not going to need those anymore. In fact, it's probably junk now. I don't know how easy it would be to replace that, although I'm not going to use them, so I doubt anybody else could use it. Okay, so let's go ahead and get the rest of the exhaust, the downpipes out of the car. All right, now that we got those headers out of the way, you can see we got different size pipe from here just to here. And then you can see that this H pipe is just kind of welded together, whatever they could do. And then it goes down to these mufflers that, I don't know what these are, but they're crooked. They're not mounted the same. They're not even mounted parallel. I mean, they're just, this needs to get redone pretty bad. So, but what I need to cut these tubes off because that new H pipe that I'm gonna go in here, but I don't know where to cut yet. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get the headers installed up front, and then we can kind of start to pace and see where the H pipe is gonna fit. You know, how far back it's gonna come, and then we'll cut those off. And then I've got some flexible exhaust, some temporary exhaust tubing that we'll use to connect the H pipe to the existing exhaust until I can get it to the muffler shop and get the rest of this fixed up. Here's that temporary flexible exhaust tubing. You can buy this stuff at the auto parts store. This is a 2.5-inch ID, so it'll fit around the tubing, and then we just have some of these clamps that will just clamp it down and hold it in place. And it's enough to get, to drive the car to the muffler shop so that you can weld in the new mufflers. All right, change of plans. I found out that I need to put those headers in from the back, and this piping is in the way. Plus, I need to cut this out anyways when we put in the new downpipes. One thing I'm going to do, because I'm going to utilize this existing piping until I can get to the muffler shop, I don't want to cut too much off, because as that piping comes down, I want to just connect the new stuff to the old stuff. So if we cut it here a little short, then I can always just cut a little bit more if I find out that this is still in the way. All right, now we can see up inside there. Let's try to stuff these headers up there and see if they fit without having to lift the motor. There. Now we'll just go up top and we'll put the gasket in place and we'll start putting the bolts in. Let's go over to the other side real quick and put the driver's side in while we're here. Okay guys, I got a confession to make. I was test fitting this one in here before I started the camera to make sure I could do it, because I know the driver's side is always the tighter of the two sides. And I got it in here without having to lift the motor, so that's good. But it's such a tight fit that I don't want to try to finagle it out of here and then get it back in there. So trust me when I say you can put these JBA headers in without having to lift the motor, but we're gonna skip that part. So now we can go up on top and put the gaskets in and then the bolts in. I think I forgot to point out earlier that JBA includes the hardware for mounting these headers to the block, so that's always nice. You want to go ahead and slide your gasket in there, and then we're just going to go ahead and put some bolts in the front and the back here just to kind of hold everything in place and get everything lined up. And this kind of takes a little bit of finagling, but it can be done. All right, we skipped all the boring stuff. I got all the fasteners in. Again, you just need to take your time. Some of these are a little harder to get to, but thankfully JBA notches out the back side of these curves here so you can get a wrench in there and get all that put in. Also, I just wanted to point out too how close, I think I can put a piece of paper between the number, what is this, number 7 tube and the tower here. So, but it's not touching, but it's really, really close. All right, let's go to the passenger side. All right, again, same thing, just skipping all the boring stuff. We got all those fasteners in. The passenger side is much easier to install than the driver's side. So if I were you, I would do the driver's side first, get all your frustrations out over there, then come over here and do the easier passenger side. So now we can step below and see how those H-pipes are gonna set up with these. All right, this is kind of hard to hold in place, but you can kind of get an idea that, you know, as we put this up in here, I've got to cut the tubes back here a little bit more. I got to cut them off at least to here, just to, you know, just to get to the, you know, the end of the new tubes. But then I need to cut a little bit more because I got to put that exhaust, that flexible tubing in here. So I'm gonna have to try to get all that set up and figure out where I got to cut that. All right, now we got this one on. I got to cut this tube just a little bit more to get this to fit on there. So we'll cut that off, and then we can put some clamps on this. And even, you know, JBA included a clamp for this section too. And then when I get it to the muffler shop, I'll just have them weld this up. Whew. Okay, now we got these on here. That was a little bit of extra work trying to get this sharp bend in here, but we got her done. It's just a temporary fix until I get to the muffler shop. So now I'm just gonna put some clamps on here just to hold these in place. And then I'm also gonna put this clamp that JBA provided for this piece, and then we need to tighten up the bolts up front, and then this whole section is done. All right, we got all these clamps in place, everything's tightened up, and again, this is just temporary, so we're gonna be okay with how it's sitting here. And then if you come up here, up front here where I've got those bolted up, and the nice thing I like about that kind of coupling up there is it's a cup design, so it's a little flexible and allows these tubes to kind of be moved into the position that you need them to be. And the same thing on this side over here. It's kind of hard to see, but yeah. Anyway, everything's tightened up underneath here. Everything's ready to go. Real quick, I just wanted to point out, you know, here's the subframe rail and how, I mean, this thing, it's kind of hard to tell in the video, but this is hanging down maybe a ½ inch, an inch at most, below the subframe here. Well, this is fantastic. This thing's tucked up nice and neat underneath there. I really like that a lot. Well, guys, as you can tell, we got those mufflers in. This day was the only day that I could go and get these mufflers put in, and on the way into town, it didn't look too much different than this in the morning, as you can see out there, but on the way into town, it started to snow. By the time I got to the muffler shop, there was over an inch of snow on the ground, and what a dangerous decision that was, to drive in and try to get it done. But today was the only day I could do it, and it worked out. So as you could tell, as you could hear probably the sound, it sounds a lot better than the other stuff that I had on there. The tip different, you know, what I had on there, I think they call them pencil tips that was on the other one before. These have got that angled, and it kind of matches the slant of the valance back there. I'm much happier. This sounds good. Everything looks good underneath there. And really this whole setup is good. Those JBA Shortys are fantastic. That flange thickness, really, I think they're like 1/4 inch thick or something like that, the flanges for that. So those are gonna be nice and stout. Everything fits good, everything bolts right up. I didn't have to lift the motor to get those headers in there. The downpipe, H-pipe setup bolted in perfectly. It fits great with what's going on in there. And then the exhaust that we added, you know, the mufflers and the piping, everything, it's just clean, and it just tucks in and looks so much better, and it sounds good. The other exhaust, you know, the welds on various joints were dripping water off of them and stuff. It just wasn't sealed up good. The mufflers were not level, and this is so much better, so much nicer, and it looks better, sounds better, and I'm super happy with it. So that's it, guys. That's a whole exhaust system from the front to the back, and I'm happy with it. If you guys liked the video, give me a thumbs up, and if you subscribe, I appreciate it because it helps my channel out, and we'll see you in the next one.